I grew up as the youngest of four. So my grandfather, who came from Poland in 1913, who didn't talk about, I mean, he didn't experience any of these things. He was the only one to leave from his family. And so I didn't really know much about him. I was a little kid. I just knew that there was this sort of, I don't know, shadowy perception around the old country that many, many people could speak to. That's sort of what we grew up with in America. America is the great melting pot. We just need to fit in here, get ahead, and forget about the past. It was sort of an intentional amnesia, if you will, that I think really today many of us regret that we didn't know more. My cousin Sam was someone who's my father's first cousin, and he was at big family gatherings when I was very small. And I just remember him over with the Yiddish speakers, younger than the rest of them, very quiet, in contrast to my father, who was like in some, electric apricot blazer or something, and holding forth with a lucky strike hanging out of his mouth. And, he was very gregarious. But my dad wanted to fit in, like a lot of them, first generation Americans. And so we just were focused on that. It wasn't until I was a young reporter and went to cousin Sam's house for Passover. I'd just gotten to know him a little bit when I was the plane dealer. So they invited me once I'd even moved to another part of the state. And he had been back to Poland for the first time. And after dinner, he showed us this slideshow of this town that he, his hometown that he saw in these images something amazing. And I'm like, it just looked like a bunch of gray old buildings and I couldn't see it. But then he started telling us stories about my great grandparents and what happened to our family. And I was furiously writing on cocktail napkins, and it was just riveting. And so later, when I did write that magazine story, I went back and had him tell the whole story about his experiences. And I felt myself changing. I felt like a sense of identity that went beyond my sort of milquetoast town in Ohio. And also, there was a whole world of information that I didn't even know was possible to get. And so after the story came out, I asked Sam, if you ever go back to Poland, I'd love to tag along and maybe my reporting skills could be helpful. And that's how we started to travel together to Poland. And that's after he was so he had never talked about his experiences. So his interviews for my magazine story were the first time he'd talked. And his wife would say, yeah, and he never stopped after that.